Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. Trump says Canada will face 35% tariff rate starting August 1st, while Brazil readies reciprocity law following Trump's trade threats. Anti-tariff protest witnessed in Sao Paulo. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio to meet with Chinese counterpart Wang on sidelines of ASEAN summit in Kuala Lumpur. Taiwan tariffs to top the agenda. U.S. top diplomat Marco Rubio expresses disappointment and frustration at the lack of progress to end conflict in talks with Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov. Trump to make a major statement on Monday. Netanyahu hopes hostage deal can be done in few days. 60-day ceasefire likely, which Netanyahu says two sides could use to try to end the conflict. And in Wimbledon, women's singles, America's Anisimova and Polish star Iga Swiatek will face off in finals on Saturday. Men's semi-final will kick off from today. Eyes on Djokovic versus Sinner and Alcaraz versus Fritz. And moving on, U.S. President Donald Trump on Thursday announced a 35% tariff on imports from Canada next month and planned to impose blanket tariffs of 15% or 20% on most other trade partners. Well, in a letter released on a social media platform, Trump told Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney the new rate would go into effect on August 1st and would go up if Canada retaliated. The new tariff will apply to Canadian products entering the United States and comes as part of what Trump called a response to Canada's retaliation and ongoing trade barriers. In an official letter made public on Thursday evening, Trump outlined his reasons for the steep tariff hike and accused Canada of failing to cooperate on key issues, particularly the flow of fentanyl into the United States. Also, President Trump claimed that Canada's failure to stop fentanyl from entering the U.S. contributed to the new tariff policy. In a direct warning to Ottawa, Trump said any Canadian response would be met with additional tariffs. Trump has already sent letters to 22 countries outlining new tariff rates, including a 50% tariff on imports from Brazil. And Brazilian Vice President Geraldo Alckmin confirmed that the country's reciprocity law is ready for immediate implementation following U.S. President Trump's announcement of 50% tariffs on Brazilian goods. While speaking at a press conference, Alckmin said the law has already been approved by Brazil's National Congress and that the decree should be published today, tomorrow, or in the coming days. Alckmin criticized former President Jair Bolsonaro's role in the escalating trade dispute, suggesting his allies continue to work against Brazilian interest even after leaving the office. Meanwhile, Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said he wanted to find a diplomatic solution to Trump's threat of 50% tariffs on Brazilian exports, but vowed to reciprocate like for like if they take effect on August 1st. Lula criticized Bolsonaro for perpetuating claims of legal persecution, stressing that the former president's son, Eduardo Bolsonaro, took leave from his role in Congress, at least in part to lead a campaign in his father's favor in the U.S. Well, the Brazilian protesters expressed outrage in Sao Paulo during a demonstration that was initially aimed at supporting the government's economic policies, but quickly shifted focus following Trump's new tariff announcement. Well, the crowd, which included members and supporters of the ruling Workers' Party, gathered with flags and signs backing Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. Protesters set on fire an effigy of Trump and a U.S. flag. Originally organized to support a proposed tax on high-income earners, the protest changed direction after the United States announced a 50% tariff on Brazilian products. The move sparked widespread condemnation from demonstrators who viewed it as an attack on Brazil's sovereignty. And for more on this, we have Tanvi Taneja joining us. Well, Tanvi, with President Trump's announcement of high tariffs now on Canada and Brazil also, and with many countries receiving tariff letters this week, mostly being in Asia and Southeast Asia, but sits between Chinese component suppliers and the Western consumer market. What is at power play here, especially with Canada?
Yeah, Lipakshi, Donald Trump has said on Thursday that the US would impose a 35% tariff on imports from Canada next month, and he has planned to impose blanket tariffs of 15 to 20% on most other trading partners. Well, we know Donald Trump, since assuming office, has been negotiating with countries to come at a trade deal so that these tariffs, the impact of tariffs, could be reduced. But now, over the past month or so, these reactions from world leaders are getting sharper and sharper. We saw this in BRICS summit in Brazil, where the host, Brazilian President Lula da Silva, called Trump an emperor and said that this is not how world politics and global trade should operate. Similarly, in ASEAN, which is happening in Malaysia, the Asian leaders also wanted to come in a very distinct, reaction and sharp criticism of Donald Trump's policies. Now, coming to Canada again, now Prime Minister Mark Carney came on the very bold promise of hitting back at tariffs imposed by Trump. Now, the 35% tariff is an increase from the current 25% rate that Trump had assigned to Canada. And of course, their trade pact is not yet through. So an exclusion of goods covered by the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement on Trade was expected to stay in place, and 10% or 10% tariffs on energy and fertilizer were also not set to change, though Trump had not made a final decision on those issues. Now, Trump has complained in his letter about what he referred to as the flow of fentanyl from Canada. Canada says that these amount of fentanyl from the country's tariff and non-trade barriers are not as much. And of course, if Canada, had agreed to wrap up, Canada's economic and security deal. So this trade war basically is heightening in recent days, setting new tariffs on a number of countries. And of course, Canada, Brazil, Japan, South Korea getting a 50% tariff on certain commodities as well. So a lot is at power play here.
All right. Tanvi, also, if you talk about the higher tariffs now, which will be imposed on Brazil also, how will they go with Brazil's President Lula da Silva now that reciprocity is also in question?
Yes, so what has happened is so far that this tiff between Brazilian President Lula da Silva and US President Donald Trump has been going on for the past week. And now reciprocity is in question, like you mentioned. So what the Brazilian government, Lula yesterday called an emergency meeting with the government officials, and now they have come up with a reciprocity law that allows them countermeasures beyond tariffs. In fact, the statement has said, this is Lula who said it in a TV interview, that we will first try to negotiate, but if there is no negotiation, the law of reciprocity will be put in place. So if they're going to charge us 50, we will charge them 50%. But, President is unlikely to bring these tit-for-tat tariffs as now, because the deadline is August 1st. So they are going to wait till how Trump responds, and then they're going to put a 50%. Now, another angle to this story, as far as Brazil is concerned, is of Trump linking these tariffs to the witch hunt of former President Jair Bolsonaro. Trump said that Bolsonaro was the victim of a witch hunt, as he's on trial on charges of plotting a coup to stop Lula from taking office in 2023. So we already saw in the story that there are protests in Brazil, and Lula has criticized Bolsonaro for perpetuating claims of legal persecution, stressing that his son Eduardo Bolsonaro took leave from his role in Congress, at least in part, to head a campaign in father's favor in the United States. So now Trump's taxation of Brazil is casting a shadow on the domestic internal politics of Brazil as well. But now, important thing to note here is if every country, at least the ones who have not been able to negotiate a deal with Trump, if they go on for a tit for tat tariff, it is going to hurt economies very badly and global trade as a whole. Lipakshi.
All right. Of course, it's going to hurt the economies very badly. Thank you, Tanvi, for all those details. And moving on, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia for the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting. On the sidelines of the ASEAN meeting, Rubio will meet with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang on Friday. This will be the first in-person meeting between the two leaders. While speaking to reporters in Kuala Lumpur, Rubio said he would raise Chinese support for Russia in his meeting with Wang. And on Thursday, U.S. Secretary of State met his Japanese and Philippines counterparts. His visit is part of an effort to renew U.S. focus on the Indo-Pacific and look beyond conflicts in the West Asia and Europe. Washington's top diplomat joined foreign ministers of the 10-member Association of Southeast Asian Nations in Kuala Lumpur at a meeting. While addressing the ASEAN leaders, Rubio stressed to ASEAN that the Indo-Pacific was a focal point of U.S. foreign policy.
We've been engaged for a very long time, and we have strong partnerships we have no intention of abandoning, but rather strengthening and building upon. The United States is a committed partner to ASEAN. It's central to the regional architecture. It shapes its dynamics. In fact, ASEAN is the preeminent mechanism by which we engage with a region that we do not consider to be the periphery of any nation state. We consider it to be sovereign, independent states with whom we have long-standing relationships and partnerships. And these are relationships and partnerships that we intend to continue to build on without seeking the approval or the permission of any other actor in the region or the world.
Well, on the sidelines of the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio also met his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov. Rubio said Lavrov shared new ideas on resolving the conflict, which he promised to present to U.S. President Donald Trump. Their meeting comes at a time when U.S. President Donald Trump expressed a disappointment with Russian President Vladimir Putin over conflict with Ukraine. Meanwhile, local reports says U.S. President Donald Trump will make a major statement on Russia on Monday.
We shared some information and ideas that I intend to take back to the president. Hopefully it'll lead to something positive. I can't guarantee it. The president's been frustrated at the lack of progress. He's made that clear publicly. But, we'll see if that changes. And if we see opportunities to make progress on peace, we want to be involved in pursuing that.
And still to come in DD India News Hour. Federal judge again blocks Trump's birthright citizenship order nationwide. Israel signals readiness for lasting deal with Hamas during 60-day ceasefire talks. And Argentina's Senate approves the pension hikes despite Milei's veto threat amid rising retiree protest.
Trayambagam Gejamage Sugantim Prushtivartanam Uruvar Urumiga Bandanat Murtriyor Mushya Mamardar Maha Ganesha Potri Har Har Mahadeva. I'm from Malaysia. I'm very happy we have reached this stage after all the challenges that we went through. Finally I'm here. So I am very, very blessed even to be here. But once I complete the journey, it will be very, very good.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran. And moving on, a federal judge has again barred President Donald Trump's administration from enforcing its executive order limiting birthright citizenship across the country. The federal judge in New Hampshire has granted class action status to a lawsuit that aims to protect babies who would be denied birthright citizenship under the Trump administration's orders. This comes after the U.S. Supreme Court restricted the ability of judges to block his policies using nationwide injunctions. The judge said he would stay his ruling for 7 days to allow the Trump administration to appeal and would issue a written decision by the end of the day. Under the Supreme Court's decision, Trump's executive order had been set to take effect on July 27th. The ruling marks the first major legal setback for Trump's January executive order, which sought to deny U.S. citizenship to children born to undocumented or temporary residents. And Israel is ready to negotiate a lasting deal with Hamas to end the Gaza conflict when a temporary halt to hostilities begins. Efforts to secure a 60-day halt in the 21-month war have dominated Netanyahu's talks with U.S. President Donald Trump in Washington. Indirect negotiations have been taking place between the two sides in Qatar, and the militants have agreed to free 10 of the 20 hostages still alive in captivity since the October 7, 2023 attack which sparked the conflict. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Thursday that the Islamist militants must first give up their weapons and their hold on the Palestinian territory. He warned that failure to reach a deal on Israel's terms would lead to further conflict. During a video message from Washington, he also said that the choice of which hostages will be released in a proposed 60-day ceasefire deal is not in their hands.
We are dealing with a ruthless terror organization. Obviously, we would like to rescue all of the hostages, and from our point of view, all of them are humanitarian. I want to rescue all of them in one go. We are dealing with 2 stages, but the choice is not always in our hands. We will do everything in order to maximize the number of those released in this round in the best way possible. Not everything is in our hands.
Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Saar is in Vienna. In an interview with Austrian newspaper, he admitted that ironing out all complex issues would likely take a few more days. And during a joint press conference with his Austrian and German counterparts, he said they are counting on the ceasefire efforts being successful. He also said Israel was ready to grant Hamas leaders safe passage into exile.
Israel is serious in its will to achieve a hostage deal and the ceasefire in Gaza, and I believe it is achievable.
And despite the deadlock, both sides signal cautious optimism. A report on this.
The latest round of indirect talks between Hamas and Israel has yet to achieve any major breakthrough, with key issues still unresolved. Officials from both sides involved confirmed that negotiations resumed on Sunday in Doha amid international efforts to end the ongoing conflict. However, the talks have not yet yielded the desired results so far. Held behind closed doors, very little official information has been released regarding their progress. As of Wednesday, the 4th day of this round, only minimal headway had been made towards a potential ceasefire agreement. According to analysts, the current negotiations are primarily stalled over 3 major issues. First, there is disagreement over who will be responsible for distributing humanitarian aid in Palestine. Second, the parties differ on the issue of the Israeli army's withdrawal. And third, Hamas is seeking guarantees from mediators that both sides will fully adhere to the terms of any future agreement. On the matter of humanitarian aid, Israel insists that distribution should be handled by U.S. contractors and subject to Israeli government approval. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is currently visiting the United States, stated that a distribution system has already been put in place to prevent aid from being seized by Hamas.
And moving on, Britain reached an agreement with France on a pilot program to return migrants arriving in small boats on Thursday. At a joint press conference, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron announced a one-in, one-out migrant returns scheme where UK would send undocumented migrants back to France in exchange for accepting an equal number of legitimate asylum seekers with UK family ties. After hosting Macron for a 3-day visit, Starmer received a significant boost when Macron announced France's agreement to the migrant returns scheme. Well over 21,000 people have arrived on small boats so far in 2025.
So I'm pleased to announce our agreement today on a groundbreaking returns pilot. For the very first time, migrants arriving via small boat will be detained and returned to France in short order. In exchange for every return, a different individual will be allowed to come here via a safe route, controlled and legal, subject to strict security checks, and only open to those who have not tried to enter the UK illegally.
And moving on, Argentina's Senate has approved pension increases despite resistance from Libertarian President Javier Milei, who immediately vowed to veto the measures over fiscal concerns. The Senate backed the pension reform with 52 votes in favor and 4 abstentions following earlier approval by the lower chamber of Congress. The bill would boost retirement benefits for millions of Argentines struggling with the country's economic crisis. Milei, who has made fiscal austerity a cornerstone of his presidency, was defiant in his response to the legislative action. Milei has vowed to veto a hike in pensions and already did so in a similar move last year. Meanwhile, retirees have launched a weekly protest in Buenos Aires to demand adjustments to their pension payments, occasionally facing off with the police. And associates and relatives of Argentines with disabilities garnered to demand the Senate pass an emergency bill to secure their rights in healthcare, education and work in front of Congress on Thursday. The Disability Emergency Law Bill, backed by the opposition coalition union Por la Patria in Argentina's lower chamber, includes monthly adjustments to basic service fees and guarantees pension funding, among other provisions. President Javier Milei has threatened to veto the bill if it passes, calling it regressive and representative of a failed assistencialist model, according to local media. Meanwhile, disability rights groups are urging for the emergency declaration outlined in the bill to help counter the effects of Milei's budget cuts. And moving on, the U.S. State Department is imposing sanctions on UN expert Francesca Albanese, accusing of having targeted U.S. companies in an unacceptable campaign of political and economic warfare.
The ICC's actions set a dangerous precedent for lawfare that endangers our national security and foreign policy and infringes on the sovereignty of the United States. The President declared a national emergency under the EO that emphasizes, quote, the United States will impose tangible and significant consequences on those responsible for the ICC's transgressions.
Italian lawyer Francesca Albanese serves as special rapporteur on human rights in the Palestinian territories, one of dozens of experts appointed by the 47-member UN Human Rights Council to report on specific global issues. She has long criticized Israeli treatment of the Palestinians and this month published a report accusing over 60 companies, including some U.S. firms, of supporting Israeli settlements in the West Bank and military actions in Gaza. Meanwhile, the UN has termed this decision by U.S. as unacceptable.
The imposition of sanctions on special rapporteurs is a dangerous precedent. Francesca Albanese, like all other special UN human rights rapporteurs, is an independent human rights expert appointed by the UN Human Rights Council and reporting to the UN Human Rights Council. Special rapporteurs do not report to the Secretary General. He has no authority over them or their work. That being said, member states are perfectly entitled to their views and to disagree with reports by special rapporteurs, but we encourage them to engage with the UN's human rights architecture. The use of unilateral sanctions against special rapporteurs or any other UN expert or official is unacceptable.
Well, a protest by informal miners in Lima turned violent on Thursday as demonstrators clashed with riot police over the government's plan to formalize and regulate the sector, a move that has sparked growing unrest in recent weeks. Well, tensions escalated near Congress when some protesters broke through security barriers. The demonstrators are calling for the approval of an artisan and small-scale mining law and an extension of the December 31st deadline to join the formalization program. The miners' strike, ongoing for 10 days, has also disrupted other regions. In Arequipa, roadblocks caused traffic delays, prompting demands for government action. Peru's government has removed miners from the RAINFO, a temporary system program to help informal miners transition to legality, leaving 31,500 of abuse cases and convictions. On July 9th, Peru's Congress passed a bill granting amnesty to military and police officers over the age of 70 prosecuted or convicted for abuses during the 1980 to 2000 internal conflict. Well, the law will soon be sent to President Dina Boluart for approval, allowing accused military personnel to seek pardons. Between the year 1980 and 2000, Peru faced a violent conflict with the Maoist Shining Path, resulting in about 69,000 deaths or disappearances. Legislator Ross Pigigliosi backs the amnesty to end prolonged trials, while Peru's human rights body warns it will cancel 156 convictions and leave over 600 cases unresolved. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. The original Birkin bag was sold at auction for $10.04 million on Tuesday at Sotheby's Paris. It was a record for a fashion item in Europe. The buyer was a Japanese collector. The coveted designer bag was created after Franco-British actress Jane Birkin met Hermes CEO John Louis Dumas on a flight in 1984 and told him she needed a bigger, functional bag while traveling with a younger daughter, Charlotte. In northern Argentina, the removal of a nearly 300-year-old tree began this week after 2 months of protest, legal appeals and demonstrations, including arrest. It is located on a route to widen a motorway. The white quebracho is native to South America and has a particularly hard wood. In Essaouira, on Morocco's Atlantic coast, Mohammed Ouakrim handicrafts the guembri, a 3-stringed bass lute with deep roots. From a small workshop to the stages of the Gnawa Annual Music Festival, the instrument connects cultures and sounds. And still to come in DD India News Hour. Some global weather updates. Central India braces for heavy rain as IMD issues alert. Texas authorities faced mounting over the response to flash flood. On One Nation, One Election will take place on Friday. And the holy month of Sawan or Shravan begins. The spiritual journey of Kanwar Yatra also begins from today.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuala, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. Trump says Canada will face a 35% tariff rate starting August 1st, while Brazil readies reciprocity law following Trump's trade threats. Anti-tariff protest witnessed in Sao Paulo. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio to meet with Chinese counterpart Wang Yi on sidelines of ASEAN summit in Kuala Lumpur. Taiwan tariffs are to top the agenda. U.S. top diplomat Marco Rubio expresses disappointment and frustration at the lack of progress to end conflict in talks with Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov. Trump to make a major statement on Monday. Netanyahu hopes hostage deal can be done in few days. 60-day ceasefire likely, which Netanyahu says two sides could use to try to end the conflict. And in Wimbledon women's single, America's Amanda Anisimova and Polish star Iga Swiatek will face off in finals on Saturday. Men's semi-finals will kick off from today. Eyes on Djokovic versus Sinner and Alcaraz versus Fritz. Well, the send-off ceremony for Team India's delegation to the Gothia Cup 2025 was held at the Embassy of Sweden in Chanakpuri, New Delhi. On the sidelines of the event, Prasar Bharati chairman Navneet Sehgal emphasized the vital role of sports in building an inclusive society. In an exclusive conversation with DD India correspondent Narayan Singh, he said that Prasar Bharati is committed to taking sports to every corner of the country, ensuring wider reach and greater participation.
Sports plays a key role for the formation of an inclusive society, and now the team from India are going to Sweden to participate in the Gothia Cup. And right now I am joined by the chairman of the Prasar Bharati, Shri Navneet Sehgal ji. Sir, a very warm welcome. The way things are happening, two teams from the India are going to participate in the Gothia Cup. So do you think it's a big push towards the four-worded mantra of the PM Modi, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, and it is taking it to a different level?
Yeah, you see, all the three things that is happening today: women empowerment, empowerment of those with special needs, and the medium. Medium is sports. You know, sports is big inclusive program. Now, under our Prime Minister Modi ji, the country is progressing very fast. We have inclusive and a very progressive society, and the sending off of the women team, girls team under 15, and the team with the special needs to Gothia Cup Sweden is an example of emerging and resurgent India, both in terms of development of society and in terms of empowerment, in terms of inclusive development, and also empowerment of the nation through sports.
So talking about the Prasar Bharati, it is adopting an inclusive philosophy in broadcasting of sports. We saw in the past the way the Para Khelo India games were covered by the Prasar Bharati, and the special games in Turin, the winter games, and also we saw the Berlin summer games, the special games were covered by. So how you look this approach of the Prasar Bharati making an inclusive broadcasting sports?
No, it's as a national independent broadcaster, it is our duty to bring the not only information but also knowledge about various aspects of societal development. Sports is a very big step towards the development of overall society, and as Prasar Bharati we are trying to bring the sports to the nook and corner of the country. You see, we have a large presence in the rural areas. We have already signed agreements with Hockey India, Handball Federation. Now we will do it with the Football Federation also, and simultaneously with badminton and other sports. So trying to kind of put in an effort towards Honorable Prime Minister's vision of development of sports and development of a better society.
Prasar Bharati is leaving no stone unturned to make the mission of the Prime Minister Modi through sports to make an inclusive one, and the way Prasar Bharati is doing and working in the field of sports, covering each and every sports, whether it's para sports, whether it's special over, definitely days are not far when the sports through the inclusion will be the key thing in India. With camera person Lalit, Narayan Singh, DD India, Delhi.
And on the sidelines of the event, Dr. Malika Nadda, President of Special Olympics Bharat, described the initiative as another step towards building a more inclusive society. In an exclusive conversation with DD India correspondent Narayan Singh, she said the Indian contingent is well prepared and ready to showcase their skills on the international stage.
Ma'am, a very warm welcome. The send-off ceremony for the Gothia Cup, two teams are going to Sweden. So how you look this initiative that continuously our athletes are participating in the international events and getting exposure. So how good this exposure is for them?
Gothia Cup 2025 is being held in Sweden, and we are happy to announce that Special Olympics Bharat boys team will be participating again after last year's victory, where our team could bag the trophy of the football. This year again our team is ready to display their skills and do their best and bring and keep the trophy with India. And we are also honored that a girls team under 15 from Haryana has been selected to participate in this event. This is a perfect way to include all the children athletes with special needs as well as normal into the mainstream by sports through sports. Our team of girls have got the priority to be a part of this mega event, and we hope and we wish good luck to both the teams from Bharat.
How you look at the role of Special Olympic Bharat continuously working in this field?
Special Olympics International have always been working for inclusion through the global inclusion which we all want, that globally every country should include this special section in the mainstream. And with the Ministry of Education, Government of India, Special Olympics Bharat is working closely on this area of inclusion, where Special Olympics Bharat is training the teachers, the special educators, and organizing unified sports and games, which is a message of inclusion that is being given across the country through the Ministry of Education. Through the Ministry of Sports, as we all know, we have been participating in many World Summer and Winter Games, where our special athletes have brought laurels to the country, and they have come back with medals, which was more than the number of participation.
Sports plays an instrumental role for the formation of an inclusive society, and the way Special Olympic Bharat under the leadership of Dr. Mallika Nadda is working, definitely it is giving a big push to the inclusion revolution. With camera person Lalit, Narayan Singh, DD India, Delhi.
And India's Ministry of External Affairs has slammed comments by Punjab Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann over Prime Minister's visit to various countries. In response to media queries regarding comments made by the High State Authority, the official spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal said, and I quote, "We have seen some comments made by High State Authority about India's relations with friendly countries from the global south. These remarks are irresponsible and regrettable and do not behave the state authority. Government of India dissociates itself from such unwarranted comments that undermine India's ties with friendly countries," unquote. Well, the meeting of the Joint Parliamentary Committee on One Nation, One Election will take place today. At the meeting, two former Supreme Court Chief Justices D.Y. Chandrachud and J.S. Khehar will hold deliberations with the members. The objective of the meeting is to discuss the Constitutional 129th Amendment Bill 2024 and the Union Territories Law Amendment Bill 2024, which will include provisions for simultaneous Lok Sabha and State Assembly elections. Also, the government plans to implement nationwide simultaneous elections by the year 2034 following the passage of the One Nation, One Election Constitutional Amendment Bill. If passed, the state assemblies elected after 2029 will have shorter terms to align with the 2034 Lok Sabha elections. If the Lok Sabha or a state assembly is dissolved before completing its 5-year term, elections will be held to cover the remaining duration, aligning the next election with the simultaneous election cycle. And moving on, the holy month of Sawan begins from Friday, marking the start of a spiritually significant period in the Hindu calendar. Sawan is dedicated to Lord Shiva, is marked by devotion, fasting and prayers, especially on Mondays called Sawan Somvar. Across northern and central India, devotees visited temples early, offering milk, water, bay leaves and carrying decorated kanwars filled with holy Ganga water to Shiva shrines. On the first day of Sawan, devotees flocked to Kashi Vishwanath temple early in the morning to offer prayers to Lord Shiva with chants of Har Har Mahadev. They performed rituals seeking blessings for health, prosperity and wish fulfillment. While worshippers gathered at Ujjain's Mahakaleshwar temple also early on Friday to offer prayers and join special rituals for Lord Shiva, including the traditional Rudrabhishek, marking the start of the holy month. The gates of Lord Mahakaleshwar temple in Ujjain were opened an hour ahead of the usual time to accommodate the large number of Shiva devotees. Devotees also offered prayers at Kireshwar Mahadev temple in Ayodhya on the first day of Sawan. Worshippers also visited Mankameshwar temple Sawan in Prayagraj to seek blessings on the first day of the holy month of Sawan. While in Delhi, devotees visited Gauri Shankar Mandir to offer prayers. Sawan will conclude on August 9th. Also participating in the spiritual journey of the Kanwar Yatra, devotees or Kanwariyas, as they are called, carry sacred Ganga water in a Kanwar on their shoulders, symbolizing deep devotion, spiritual austerity and complete surrender to Lord Shiva. We take a look at the significance of this Yatra in the next report made by DD India's social media team.
This is not just a journey, nor merely a tradition of offering water. It's a spirit, a soulful resolve that reaches Lord Shiva with every step, every breath, every act of devotion. Legend says that in Satyug, Ravan appeased Lord Shiva by offering sacred Ganga water for his Abhishek. Thus began a tradition of carrying holy Ganga water and offering it at Shiva shrines. Today, millions of Shiva devotees collect Ganga water from holy places like Haridwar, Rishikesh, Gangotri and Gaumukh and carry it back to offer at temples in their hometowns. Thousands walk barefoot for hundreds of kilometers, chanting only one mantra, Bol Bam, Har Har Mahadev. Be it scorching heat or pouring rain, with the Kanwar swinging on their shoulders and Shiva's name echoing in their hearts, every step is a vow of surrender. No shoes, no comfort, just unshakable faith that lifts every ounce of fatigue. Each year, crores of devotees participate. In 2024 alone, over 4 crore Kanwariyas, 278 rest camps, 25,000 police personnel deployed, 1,200 CCTV cameras and drone surveillance, 200 mobile medical units, 400 plus kilometers of Kanwar path secured, 10,000 plus sanitation workers serving daily. From government and administration to society, everyone joins in the spirit of service. A stranger offers water to a weary pilgrim. Another lends a hand to someone falling behind. This is not just a pilgrimage. It is a moment when society becomes Shivamay, one with Shiva. The Kanwar carries more than water. It carries faith, sacrifice and the longing to meet Shiva. Because when Shiva calls, it's not a feet that move, it's devotion that walks. Har Har Mahadev.
An Indian comedian Kapil Sharma's newly launched restaurant Caps Cafe in Surrey, Canada came under gunfire late on Wednesday night. Preliminary reports indicate that multiple rounds were fired at the premises, though no injuries have been reported. Authorities swiftly sealed off the area and an investigation is currently underway. The cafe had only recently opened and was quickly becoming a popular spot among the Indian diaspora in Canada. As of now, Kapil Sharma has not issued any public statement on the incident. And now let's give you some weather-related updates. First up in India, the Meteorological Department has issued a fresh warning across multiple subdivisions of the country, with central India expected to be the rainiest region nationwide. According to the IMD forecast, the central Indian state of Madhya Pradesh and the eastern flank of Rajasthan are under alert for extremely heavy rainfall likely to persist until July 14th. Meanwhile, several areas in the mountainous states of Jammu and Kashmir and Himachal Pradesh are set to receive intense showers accompanied by thunderstorms and lightning. In contrast, southern Indian states except Tamil Nadu are bracing for strong surface winds, though significant rainfall is not expected. A major breaking story is unfolding in Uttarakhand, where heavy rains have crippled daily life, causing blocked roads, overflowing rivers and landslides in hilly regions. The IMD has warned of continued downpours, while the centre has released 455.60 crore rupees in relief funds. Authorities have urged people to exercise caution and avoid travel. Also moving to the national capital, Delhi, there's good news on the air quality front. Well, also torrential monsoon rain submerged major roads and low-lying neighborhoods in Pakistan's second-largest city, Lahore, disrupting traffic and forcing emergency evacuations across the metropolitan area. 4 people have died in the past 24 hours as the city received 150 millimeters of rainfall, the heaviest single-day downpour this monsoon season. At least 90 people have died in Pakistan from flood and rain-related incidents since June 26th. The casualties resulted from drowning, landslides and collapsing structures during monsoon downpours. The authority issued fresh alerts for flash flooding. Widespread urban flooding left several key commercial districts, including Gulbarg and Liberty Market, using waist-deep water. In the U.S., Texas authorities faced mounting over the response to flash flooding that has left at least 120 people dead, as details surfaced about reported delays of early alerts that could have saved lives. More than a foot of rainfall in less than an hour on 4th of July that rose river water from about a foot to 34 feet in a matter of hours, cascading over its banks and sweeping away trees and structures in its path. Hundreds of workers in Kerr County and other central Texas communities continue to comb through piles of muddy debris, but with no live rescues reported this week. Worries have swelled that the death toll could still rise. U.S. President Donald Trump to visit the disaster zone on Friday with First Lady Melania Trump. And we will tell you again, Indian comedian Kapil Sharma's newly launched restaurant Caps Cafe in Surrey, Canada came under gunfire on late Wednesday night. Preliminary reports indicate that multiple rounds were fired at the premises, though no injuries have been reported. Authorities swiftly sealed off the area and an investigation is currently underway. The cafe had only recently opened and was quickly becoming a popular spot among the Indian diaspora in Canada. As of now, Kapil Sharma has not issued any public statement on the incident. Also, local journalists are now demanding from Prime Minister Mark Carney to step up security.
It's a very bad sign of things escalating in Canada. I mean, we've already seen a big uptick in extremist violence, especially post-October 7th. The Khalistanis have been going on for a few years as well. We've seen fire bombings of synagogues, shooting up of Jewish day schools. We've seen, of course, the attack on the Monder by the Khalistanis. But this is disturbing because it presents a sort of a new type of escalation, because this is an attack on a cafe that opened a few days ago, owned by a famous Indian comedian. But what's interesting about this one is the Barbara Khalsa International, a listed terrorist organization in both countries, behind the Barbara Khalsa infamously blew up the Air India 182. They're taking responsibility for it.
And DD India correspondent Tarun Paul Singh from Canada joins us for more on this. Well, Tarun, could you tell us more about the incident?
Thank you so much. But the thing is that the Surrey police has issued some statement in regarding to it. They have mentioned that the Surrey police said that they were called to a business on around 8400 block of 120 Street at about 1:50 a.m. on Thursday. The staff said that employee of Caps Cafe was still in the restaurant when the shot was fired, but no one was injured. Anytime there are any gunshots, bullets being fired, people are risk being shot, according to the statement which has been given to by them. They also mentioned that, and they were fortunate that no one was injured or hit by a bullet or sharpened in this case from shots being fired. The windows of the cafe was riddled with numerous holes, with some panels shattered. No one at the restaurant picked up when the call was called for a comments or anything. Extremism which has been called for, but nothing has been told by the Canadian government or by the Surrey government till now.
All right, Tarun, do we know anything that why did the incident happened as of now?
Nothing. No updates has been given by the Surrey police or anyone in regards to it. Whether somebody was involved or something like, they just have given this normal statement about the incident which has happened, and nothing has been taken into casualties or detail has been given by the Surrey police in regards to it.
All right, Tarun Paul, thank you so much for all those details from there. And on to some business news now. The U.S. State Department said on Thursday it will soon implement a plan to reduce its workforce after the Supreme Court cleared the way for mass layoffs sought by President Donald Trump. In a statement, Deputy Secretary of State for Management and Resources Michelle Rigas said the department will soon be communicating to individuals affected by the reduction in force. The official also said that only personnel on U.S. soil would be affected and that there are no plans at this time to cut the number of staff abroad. The announcement by the department came just 2 days after the Supreme Court lifted a block imposed by a lower court on Trump's plans to potentially lay off tens of thousands of government employees. And in some sports news, Lord's Test, England were batting at 251 for 4 at the end of day one against India. England got off to a poor start after winning the toss and opting to bat. Nitish Reddy gave double jolt to English team, removing Ben Duckett and Zach Crawley in the 13th over. Ravindra Jadeja broke the century stand for third wicket and took the wicket of Ollie Pope. Jasprit Bumrah claimed the wicket of Harry Brook. At the end of day's play, Joe Root was not out at 99, with skipper Ben Stokes giving him company at 39. And for more on the first day of the test, we have Narayan Singh joining us. Well, Narayan, give us the highlights of day one of the test. How crucial was Nitish Reddy's double breakthrough early on in setting the tone for India's bowling attack?
Actually, if you talk about the day one, it's not about the 2 wickets of the Nitish Kumar Reddy or India has taken 4 wickets. But the most important thing is that India has broke the dominance and the arrogance of the English cricket team, the team which used to say that we will play an entertaining cricket, and the team who used to score with a run rate of 5 per over. And the team we saw in the past won 75 of their test matches in the last 3 years through the baseball philosophy. The team who used to say that they will chase any target and play entertaining cricket, they came to the ground and we can say that their arrogance has been shattered by the Team India. This is the biggest victory of this Team India because it's a new Team India, and we saw that they are finding the excuse in the last match in the presentation when England lost the second match against India at Edgbaston. Their captain said the pitch is looking like a subcontinental pitch, and now I'm wondering what will he say about this Lord's pitch, which the green top turned into the brown, and the way the disciplined Indian bowling they were not able to play. And our captain Shubman Gill to make a dig at this England team that where is your entertaining cricket? Where is the baseball? Because yesterday we saw the slowest session in the baseball era, and we saw their opener Jack Crawley was crawling and Joe Root was playing the slowest innings. So all this happens, and kudos to this Indian team that brought back the English team to the traditional way of playing the cricket.
All right, Narayan, thank you so much for all those details. And in Wimbledon, after 2 very contrasting semi-finals, American Amanda Anisimova and Poland's Iga Swiatek will face each other in the Wimbledon final on Saturday. Anisimova came through a long and grueling match against world number 1 and fellow big hitter Aryna Sabalenka, triumphing 6-4, 4-6, 6-4 after a tense and often unpredictable deciding set. For Swiatek, it was a different story. She needed just an hour and 12 minutes, less than half the time of the first semi-final, to cruise to a 6-2, 6-0 victory over Belinda Bencic. Swiatek against Anisimova surely has the advantage of having played in 5 previous Grand Slam finals, winning them all. While men's semi-finals will begin today, where Serbian tennis icon Djokovic will meet yet another 23-year-old #1 ranked Jannik Sinner for a berth in the finals, while Fritz and Alcaraz will face off in the second semis. Novak Djokovic took one step closer to record leveling a 8th Wimbledon win as he battled past Flavio Cobolli. 2 more victories and Djokovic will be able to secure his record extending 25th Grand Slam title, while Sinner has a slight upper hand over Djokovic. He leads Djokovic 5-4 in a head-to-head. Sinner's latest win over Djokovic came in the French Open semi-finals last month. While American Taylor Fritz and Spanish player Carlos Alcaraz will face off in the second semis, both of them have only played twice, and one of those matches was at the semi-exhibition Labour Cup. 2 times defending champion Alcaraz comes into the semi-final on a 23-match win streak. Not to be outdone, Fritz is 13-1 on the grass this season. And a beloved Parisian landmark is back in motion. The sails atop the Moulin Rouge windmill began turning again on July 10th. The iconic Moulin Rouge marks its return after a 14-month hiatus. Locals and tourists gathered in Montmartre to watch dancers perform the famous can-can as fireworks lit up the night sky. Take a look. Alright, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Kurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.